Hi everybody. I haven't made a video for quite a while, and I'm taking a break from work to start a fire in my stove, and thought I would just show you how I start a fire. There's hundreds of ways to do it, but if you watch me, maybe you'll learn a trick or two. So right now I'm going to take my little handy firewood carrier out, get a load of wood, and bring it back and start a fire. And I'll show you step by step. Okay, I've got a load of wood. The place isn't very cold right now, and what I've learned is just 3 pieces of firewood is just right to warm up the place and keep it warm. So what I do is use those 3 in a certain way. I use one big one in the back. That would be the, a big one that has a sort of a right angle cross section on one side, so that I can stick it in the back with that right angle sticking up. Now if I have charcoal in there, I've moved it to the middle in front of that piece of wood. But that's going to be the one that burns for the longest period of time, won't burn up quickly, and it'll last a while. So I make a few components of my fire laying. I use abutments, which I make out of bark. I always throw my bark in a pile, and then I bring in a few pieces. So I make 2 abutments, one on each side in the front of that thing. So I just take a few small pieces of bark. I lay these pieces of bark down in front of that bigger log on each side. And the idea is this is going to hold up the next log and leave an air channel underneath it. And between the log in the back and the next one that I'll set on top of the abutments is what I call the oven. That's a chamber in the middle that's going to start the fire, contain the heat, and get the heavy wood going. So at this stage I get curly fries. That's what I call them. I'll show you what my curly fries. I keep my curly fries in this closet, and all they are is all the chips that I get when I do planing or chiseling or any cutting of wood. I get chips of all sizes, so I get these from my bulldog cutter. I get these from draw knifing. These are bark off of vine maples. But I'll take a handful of these that are fairly substantial, and then a handful of these little shavings that are a little more flimsy, and I'll put them right in the middle. I lay these down right between the abutments. Next I look at my wood and I decide what is going to be in front, what's going to be the lid. And at this point I also decide whether I'm going to put any more substantial wood in there. Maybe a piece of bark. Get that going. Once the fire gets going, and this will be pretty hot. So I take the piece of wood that I decide for the front. Now I'll take this one because it has a sharp angle here. If I put that on the abutments, it'll try to fall into the fire, which is good, because as the fire burns, I don't want this falling forward. Wouldn't hurt too much, but. So then the third thing is to put a lid on. So now I've got an oven, I've got a cavity in between those 2 logs, and then I put the lid on top so that as the fire burns up out of the oven, it'll hit wood and keep going. Now it'll also squirt out the sides. So the next component I use is baffles. So I make baffles out of bark and just lean them up against the end of the oven. And that way when the flames come shooting out the sides, they hit the baffle and retain the heat and then start burning the baffle. So I got an extra piece of bark here. I'll add that and make another baffle. And then when we get this going, I'll show you how those baffles cup. And Getting going is easy. You just hit the curly fries with a torch and watch it go. At this point I could shut the lid, but I'll just leave it open so you can see. Maybe I'll shut it. Yeah, smoke's starting to come out, so I'll shut it and let the smoke go up the chimney. So the fire can burn under that gap that's made by the abutments. It's now inside the oven that's full of curly fries, and as that burns, the heat builds up in the oven and starts the big logs, and then it starts squirting out the sides. This is one of the great pleasures of life, in my opinion. It's a primitive thing, starting fires. People have been doing it for maybe 50,000 years or so. And it's been important to human development. Now it's just pure pleasure, plus a little heat. Well, you can hear the fire is burning inside the oven, and you can see it squirting out the right side there, running into the baffle. So pretty soon it'll be fully involved. But we don't want it to burn too fast. I run my stove with all the dampers wide open all the time, and that way I don't accumulate as much creosote in the pipes. But the wood burns up quickly if you don't have it stacked the way you want it. So that's it for now. The place is warming up, and as always, I thank you for watching.